All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Let's go on to recommending water commissioner for next term. Mike, how long is the term?
Hold on just a sec. I gotta look. It's a 4-year. And I'm just checking on Todd's tenure here.
Yeah,
Yeah, his term, it expires this year. So to re-recommend him for another 4-year.
That all right with you, Todd?
yeah, I'm having fun.
So a motion, unless somebody has some other question or discussion on the water commissioner, a motion to appoint him for another 4-year term would be in order.
This is Kimball Hold. I motion for Todd Terry to be put in for another 4-year term.
Thanks, Kimball. Do I have a second?
Second. This is Craig.
Craig, thanks, Craig. Glad you keep participating.
I've been in lots of Zoom meetings lately.
Yeah, well, me too, but they're not near as good as in-person meetings.
For sure.
Yeah. I have a motion made by Kimball and seconded by Craig to reappoint Todd for a 4-year term. Anybody have any discussion on that item? If not, I'll call for a vote on that item. All those in favor, please signify.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. That takes us to report from the Division of Water Rights.
Jared, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll start. Don't have a lot to report. I do want to thank everybody for coming online and doing this. I know it's different. I guess we just live in a little bit different times now. So appreciate you accommodating, this virtual way of meeting. With that, we've kind of had to figure out a few things like how to take roll. And so what I've done is in the comments, I've put a link to a Google form that if you go to the comments and you can get to the comments near the top right of your screen, there's a little cartoon bubble that'll open the comments. You'll see a link that I've put in there. Click on that link. It'll open a form where you can sign the roll. For those of you that are on the phone, we will just have to sign in for you. Everybody else should be able to sign in for themselves. See, that's really all that I wanted to talk about. Well, let me just touch on the groundwater cap program that Todd was showing. I encourage you all to go look at that and look at your accounts, get familiar with the program, and check it out and make sure there's not any errors in how things have been done. So if you have questions trying to access it, you can ask Todd or Mike or myself. We can guide you there. So that's really all I've got. Let's see, Mike, Nate, you guys have anything else to add?
I would just like to take a moment to introduce a new staff member that you can see online here with us. Anna has started here with us 2 weeks ago and is quickly coming up to speed. She's an engineer in our office, so she'll be here to help in whatever way she can. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. I guess my turn. I just wanted to share what a difference a week makes on snowpack. I want to just show you this last week. This is on February 10th, everybody was in the orange with Beaver at 52 and southwestern Utah at 63. And I'm not sure if this is going to switch over. Beaver came up to 79 and 68. So I just wanted to tell you that, all the snow we've had of recent has really brought these numbers up quite a bit. That's really going to help us out. I hope we stay in the storm pattern because we had a really bad start to winter this year. It wasn't looking too good a couple weeks back, and now we're at 68. I hope that we get back up to the 100% or better and have a manageable snowpack by the end of the year. Also, I wanted to compliment Todd for really coming up to speed on this groundwater cat program. It's been a pretty learning curve, and he has tackled it and really come up to speed and taken the time to understand it. I expect that there will be some similar learning curves for you guys as new users to the system. So don't be afraid to contact Todd first, help you get through some of the understanding, but it's a real useful tool to see where the water's used, if there's any extra water around that could be leased, or if you're over on your acreage. All that's important. And then, like you said, the report's available online. I think in the last bit of news, I'm going to retire this year. I'm going to miss working with you guys. It's been a real good involvement that I've had with the systems that I work with. And I think that in the long run, I think you guys are on a good horse headed to a big future with this groundwater cat program. I also want to compliment the Holts on reporting on all their meters. That's been much appreciated. They've really done a lot of diligence on their meters. They switched over to industrial use on all theirs, so they're really being regulated pretty tight to their depletion numbers. And that's worked out really good. They have been really upfront about reporting that. And I also want to point out that Todd's time and involvement in those meters has been funded through the Holts directly, not through this effort where we fund the water commissioner. So I just want to point that out, that Holts are making sure that Todd's time's taken care of on the system when he's involved with them. If you have any questions navigating on the website, feel free to call me or Todd or Jared, or even anybody in the state engineer's office. If you call in, they can direct you around in there. I think it's real important to get in there and understand groundwater cat. It's going to be a good way of tracking water use in the valley. Also, if you look at Todd's report, towards the back, we have the depletion estimates as far as the groundwater management plan update, and that's on page 10. I'm not going to get into that right now, but it is in there. But we have reduced almost 2,000 acre feet of water this last year in that calculation. So that's you guys are making good progress on curtailing some of the extractions out of the aquifer. That's all I had to say. I'm going to turn it back over to Mike. We don't need a motion or anything on these state engineer reports. It is what it is. And I sure thank all you guys and having enjoyed the time I have with you guys.
Well, thank you, Mike. Happy to hear you're retiring. Sorry to hear it from our relationship standpoint. It's always nice to deal with the people you know, so hate to see you go. The next item's hearing 2020 financial report.
All right, would you like me to go over that, Mike?
Whoever's going to do it's all right with me if this is the Mike or Mike Silva.
Yeah. Chairman Mike. Okay, I'll do it. Let me share my screen. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'll just run through these numbers real quickly. Here, the beginning balance on January 1st, 2020, $7,097.94. Receipts were as follows: assessments, $20,783.45. Delinquent penalties, $621. Previous assessments and penalties, $141.77. Interest, $42.88, for total receipts of $20,974.31. Expenditures were $22,638.92. This left an ending balance on December 31st of $5,433.33. You'll notice on here, we got a new state engineer who signed the report this year. Some of you have probably heard Teresa Wilhelmsen was appointed by the governor in the legislative session last year. So she's been at it for almost a year here. Okay, as we get to the second page, we've got an itemized listing of everything in the budget. With the salary there of $19,500, we had an 18-cent balance. Social Security, a 26-cent balance. Insurance, budgeted $240, spent $136.36 for a balance there of $103.64. The supplies and equipment budget of $100 was not expended. State engineer's assessment was $1,511. So the total budgeted amount at this meeting last year was $22,843. Total spent was $22,638.92, leaving a total balance of $204.08. And last year's assessment amount was set at $22,000. So any questions or comments about anything on that report?
If there's not any questions, we would need a motion to accept that 2020 financial report.
Marlo will make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Marlo. Do I have a second?
Just Craig, I'll second it.
Thanks, Craig. Marlo. Any questions about the financial report or observations before we vote on it?
Mike, I was just going to add, for those that joined late, that on the delinquent list, there's a few delinquencies there that I don't know what happened. Checks got lost somewhere between here and the state engineer's office. Mike Silva contacted me, I think on like December 30th. We discovered that check had not gone through the bank, so we reissued it, but the state didn't get it until January, so it will not show up until the 2021 report, and there may be others that are on that list that are in the same situation.
And
Right, I'll go through those in just a second.
yeah, that's the next item on our agenda.
I thought they reported the financial statement, so sorry about that.
No problem. Any other comments? If not, vote on the 2020 financial report approval as it was presented. All those in favor, please signify.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Let's go on to the reviewing delinquent account assessment.
Okay, that's my job, Mike Silva. And I'll just start at the top. Escalante Farms was a short pay, did not pay the delinquent fee. I've got to look at the date of payment on that one. I think it was just an oversight. They paid the what was due. Typically, if the dates are pretty close, I will delete the delinquent fee. On Jim Tullis, he only paid $51 of a $100 bill, so that $53.79 is the outstanding balance for Jim Tullis. Burgess Farms did not make payment this year. Their last payment was in 2019. That's same for Christensen Brothers, H. Wayne Holt, is a year, and the Lob Properties at 780.35 is paid up in full, as Liddell indicated, and that Terry Dean is 1 year, 1 year overdue. So a lot of these people are just this past year. I don't have anything in my register. If you guys have made that payment already and we did not see it, might just want to call us and we may have to search it out in our database. We've got some new accounting systems in place, and not everything got credited. So I appreciate Liddell getting the Lob Properties up to date. All these others are not much concern, just 1 year overdue. And I think that we can get caught up in the next billing cycle. Typically, we don't have this many delinquent accounts. So there could be a combination of checks weren't sent, or if we got them in the system, they weren't properly credited to the system. But this is what we know so far. And that's about it. There's no motion on this. I'll be getting down to the bottom of it. But if you have your name on this list and you have made payment other than Lobs, please get in touch with me so I can get it straight. Might need to see a copy of the canceled check too.
Any more questions for Mike on the delinquent assessments accounts? If not, we'll move on to preparing budget and salaries and other necessary expenses. So are you going to present this? I think the first thing we could talk about is Todd's salary. I had a discussion with Todd, and he's really valuable to us. And I know we gave him 500 last year. I was wondering if we should give him 500 again this year increase. What's the group think about that?
This is Randall Holt. My only question is whether 500 is enough. It seems like even this last year in our area, we're still in a pretty tight labor market, and good people like Todd are pretty tough to come by.
Well, I always hate to negotiate against myself. Todd, he's not a tough negotiator. When I asked him this question, I had to kind of pry it out of him. So it's up to whoever makes the motion. Not a motion, but a suggestion, I guess, because we got the whole budget to do, but it'll change the numbers.
Mike, this is Liddell. I would agree with Randall. It seems like with all the work he's done to learn the GIS system, convert everything over there, and in a pretty tight labor market, I would agree with Randall. So maybe we got to bump that a little bit.
You want to go 750,000?
I'd recommend 1,000, and I'd make that motion.
Okay. Is everybody all right with that? I have a motion to go to 1,000. I don't know if I need a second. I just need the group to agree, and we'll do a motion on the whole budget. And anybody opposed? That puts you in a bad spot too.
I'm just curious how much time does he spend there? I mean, I know what I make, working time. I asked this question last year and he didn't know. I mean, does he have an idea of how many hours he spends a week on this job to keep track of stuff?
It depends on the week. When I was learning GWCAT, I was probably making $5 an hour, but in 2019, I probably made $25 an hour. So it just depends on the year and what I'm up against.
How much How does that, when you're keeping track of those meters for Holtz, how does that, is that part of your responsibilities as the water, you know, under this 20,000 tank, or?
No, when I go out and read meters with the Holtz, they pay me directly. So they cover any expense or fuel or mileage that I do with them directly, and this budget that we're doing right now has nothing to do with the Holt meters.
Well, my question, isn't that part of your job is to keep track of those meters? When they put them on, wasn't that part of the job of the commissioner here, or is is keeping track of those meters not part of your commissioner job?
Jerry?
I can actually speak to that. In the order of the state engineer that approves the Holtz project, it specifically says that they would pay for the additional expenses incurred. And so those are additional expenses.
Okay, so reading those meters aren't part of his actual job as the commissioner. It's extra.
Yeah, I mean, they're related to his job as commissioner, but they're paid directly by the Holtz.
Okay, just a little bit of a weird deal. I just didn't know how that was working.
Well, it's not a big expense for the Holtz. I think they paid me a couple of $100 last year, so it's not like I'm really spending a lot of time out there reading meters. They've got it organized really well, and it doesn't take very long, so it's not a burden on them. And it does take a little extra time for me, but that's about the way it is right now.
Okay, just another question off the subject, but are all those meters up and going this year on all those wells?
I read at the beginning of the Holtz water year, I read every meter, and they had a meter on every well, and 99% of their pivots. The difference between the pivots not all having a meter is because if one well is for 2 pivots, then the second pivot doesn't need to have a meter, and that's why there's not a meter on every single pivot, because the well is being metered plus one of the pivots, and then maybe if there's one not being metered, that's the reason.
Okay, thank you.
I might add, this is Mike Silva, that Todd did spend a lot of time learning this groundwater cat. And I think as time goes on, with you guys calling him, there may be more time involved for him to get you guys up to speed with this. So he has spent some more time this year. Like he said, he was only making $5 an hour when he was working on this, but it was pretty much full time in the fall. We were doing meetings about every week or every other week with Todd to get him up to speed on this. There was a lot more time spent than he typically would have just doing the maps. I think in the long run, there is going to be some time savings with this as you guys come up to speed and learn how to use it also.
Todd did tell me he's covering a lot of the expenses out of that salary. And I remember when we hired Todd, and some of the people we interviewed and the money they wanted, and I think they wanted more than what we're paying Todd right now to start with back in that era. And I don't know if the division has any feeling about what it's costing other systems, where we compare with other systems price-wise for what's going on. No comment from the state.
I'll just make a comment, Mike. We do have 4 other map systems that are comparable, and I think that the salary is pretty comparable. I mean, it's hard to make a direct comparison because the different systems or slightly different sizes.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at it, it seems to be pretty consistent.
Well, I had a motion from Liddell to bump it to 1,000, and we've had some discussion. Do I have a second for that motion?
I've got one more, and I've reminded you this before, but in the past I was budgeted several $1,000s for expenses, for software purchases, and for the report, for mileage. And I've just 3 or 4 years ago, I decided I'd just as soon not deal with all the reports, and I'd just take those expenses in my salary. So my salary, if I was still getting the expenses, my salary would probably be about 16,000 plus expenses. And so I just wanted to remind you of that.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Well, I have that motion now. Do I have a second for it? To bump $1,000.
Marlo would like to make a motion to accept that.
Okay, Liddell made the motion already, so
Or
if
second
Marlo
it.
would second it. Okay, I have a motion from Liddell and a second from Marlo to bump Todd's salary $1,000, which would make it $20,500. Everybody understand the motion? Any more discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote on that motion. All those in favor, please signify.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Can you give us the new numbers based on that now? In the
At
proposed budget?
2,500, I think the Social Security is 1,570 about. Jared might check that. And that'll put the insurance, I think if we just kept it at 240, I think we'll be okay. Unless Jared has any suggestions. You're down to line 4, supplies and equipment. We had 100 budgeted there. And I can't add that the speed engineer's assessment this year is 1584.
You're showing 1511, but it's 1584, huh?
Yeah, for the new year, we take the expenses from the previous year. We subtract the speed engineer's assessment from last year, and then we multiply by 7.5% that number.
Have you got your calculators handy so you can give us what the total number would be? It'd be 1,000 plus.
Here, give me just a second. I get 23,994 is the budget.
Okay. So the budget would be 23,994 based on those numbers that we talked about. 20,500 for Todd, approximately 1570 on the FICA. 240 would remain the same. We'd leave the 100 in there, and the state's assessment would go to 1584, and that gives us the 23,994.
That's correct.
So that would be the proposed budget. Do I have a motion on that to accept that?
I'll make that motion, Mike.
Okay, I got Craig. Do I have a second?
This is Randall. I'll second that motion.
Okay, Randall will second it. So I have a motion from Craig and a second from Randall to approve a budget that's 23,994 with Todd's salary being 20,500. Is there any further discussion?
I do have one, going back to what Jeremy was saying about the payments. So excuse me, we make directly to Todd, should, in the interest of transparency, should we report that also? I guess technically speaking, the correct way to do that might be us reimbursing the state giving it to Todd, but for the sake of efficiency, we just run it straight into Todd. We don't want that to be a weird situation. So what would you like to do? Would you like to, what would the users like us to do on that? Jeremy?
Randall, this is Liddell speaking. I think that, like you said, it just solves problems. I know it's a pain, but it solves problems if you just run it through the state. Because then everybody knows what it is. Nobody's second guessing you. And it shows up on the reports. The last thing you want is for a few dollars there to be a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I hadn't even thought about causing anyone any angst on that, but it complicates things a little bit, but sure be. It might look a lot better if it didn't go from us straight to Todd. If we reimburse the state and the state reimburses Todd on that, it is a lot more complicated. But whatever the users would like us to do.
I don't want to be the guy always bringing stuff up, but I visit with people all year, and everybody has concerns and questions, and I guess I'm the only guy that talks about it a little bit. It was just, I didn't know that was part of your original plan, that you were to pay him for that extra time. I didn't know that was in there, so it was brought up last year in the meeting, and it's just something that's been in my mind, and it just, why were you paying him to do a job if that was his job? But if that was in your original deal, then that was part of the deal, and I did not understand that, and so that was a misunderstanding on my part.
Oh, I think you bring up a really valid point, Jeremy. It's everything should be transparent with all of the users, and also the users. If we're doing something that creates extra burden on the system, on the reporting of the system, then part of that order is for us to pay for that. And we just paid it directly, taking the hours, just paid it directly. So we could either have that be a part of a report, or we could pay that money to the state. It is whatever the users, whatever everybody here would like us to do. We would like to do whatever it takes to be completely transparent.
I will say that I remember when Holtz did this, and it was part of the original agreement that all the reporting was incumbent on them. And I think it complicates things to run it through the state, but maybe to just include it like on the bottom of the report of what transpired between you and Todd would be sufficient. I think it complicates things to run it through the state and back out again. That's my opinion.
Nathan,
I agree with that, Mike.
what would you suggest?
I guess my thing is if he's not hired by the state while he is doing that, and that's something you are personally hiring him for, I guess it really has nothing to do with the state. But if he's there on behalf of his job as the commissioner of the water users, I would say it needs to be reported. But if you're just hiring him yourself and it has nothing to do with his job as the water commissioner, then I mean it's no big deal, I guess.
Then to that point,
My understanding is it is part of the water commissioner because it is part of the state order. And so it is something that has to be verified by the state, which is what Todd is doing. Go ahead, Nathan.
I went ahead and reviewed the condition in the order, and it specifically says that diversion of water under this application will be made under the direction of the commissioner Any additional expenses by the commissioner shall be borne by the applicants. So it is in his role as commissioner.
I've got an idea. Why don't we just not worry about it? I mean,
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just be quiet and let some of the guys with a lot more water rights worry about stuff and make out his fine. But I get to hear about it all year is the only thing I've got.
Well, we don't want to be an additional burden on other users. If we're using more of Todd's time, relatively speaking, we should pay for that.
But that goes without saying. You're the largest water holder, so I'm gonna be using most of my time for you to start with. But that's part of my salary. So I don't know how Nathan feels about it, but
Yeah,
I don't know if
maybe
that
I could. Maybe I should weigh in on this. One of the things that you can see groundwater cat is the basis of assessment. It will show what their proportionate amount of acres is. What we're doing with the Holtz this year is they're actually going to get a larger percentage of the assessment because we're putting it on their total acres, which because of how they're doing it, this year is more than it's been in past years because it's commercial, and so they're going to get a bigger percentage of the bill moving forward as they do commercial acres. So, and I think that's warranted because I think.
You cut out on us at the end, but what I think I hear Todd saying is maybe the $1,000 can help cover that. Is that all right with you, Todd?
Yeah, I just have always figured it was part of my job anyway, but I questioned when they first told me I'd get paid extra for doing the Holtz. Why would that happen? So I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
All right.
And they're making it more efficient as the years go by. Maybe this year it'll all be on telemetry, and I won't have to spend near as much time out there. So it's okay with me to just take that out of the temporary change order and just make that part of my salary.
Okay. I think that would solve the issue. Any other discussion?
Nathan's got a little consternation on that because that's directly in the order.
Yeah, Mike, I am curious about this, and I didn't catch Jared's last few sentences, and I think you may have been addressing it there, but the system is going to continue to be dynamic as other people make changes to their water rights. However we deal with Holtz, we'll want to deal with others in the future. And Jared, if it's already being adjusted in it because of the modeling that they're going to bear more burden percentage-wise, do you think it covers it as other people go forward as well?
As other people go forward?
If other people were to make changes to their water rights in a similar fashion, does the way that we're billing the Holtz, will that accommodate these changes in the future?
Yeah, I think we would make the same adjustment to other water users that we're doing with the Holtz.
And so the question is, are there additional expenses being incurred by the commissioner in distributing water for the Holtz that aren't covered by this adjustment that Jared's making? If there's not, then I don't think that there needs to be additional payment. It may already be taken care of.
Well, I think originally it was meant to cover my extra fuel expense for going out and reading meters and meeting with them and time on my spreadsheet and stuff. But like I said just a minute ago, that's part of my job. So I'm not opposed to just making it part of my salary and not having to deal with it.
Well, why don't I propose this? I think what I'm hearing is we can go to the 20,500, but let's have the state kind of track what goes on this year, and let's make sure that the way you divide up and bill us for our water right covers that little bit extra that it's costing to do whole thing. Will that work for the state if we go forward and just pass this budget the way we've got it right now, and then maybe next year we can meet in person and we'll have a little better idea of what those costs are and if they're being fairly distributed?
It'll be easy to do the assessment this year and just be able to compare it to what it was last year for Holtz and see what that difference is. And then we can make a determination on whether that was a fair way to reallocate it. But I suspect it will be, just because it's based on total acres. And so with those extra acres going in, that'll shift that basis of assessments. But yes, we will continue to do that.
Okay, so I have a motion, I think, on the budget at the 23,994 and a second. I think it was Craig and Randall. Is that right? Did I have that right?
Dale and Mark.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote on the 23,994. Okay, all those in favor, please signify.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. With that stipulation, the state will track that a little bit, and then we'll see where that ends up next year. Is that all right with you, Randall, Jared? Okay. So now we need to set the system assessment, and I wasn't in last year's meeting for the discussion about the 30%. So I guess where are we at with our excess?
So that number went from 7,097 to 5,433. So we dropped quite a bit. I think we'll make about half the delinquent of the 16. We'll probably make about 800 back if we collect the delinquent assessments. So we're really only eroded that outstanding balance about. If you keep the assessment the same, I think keep in mind the assessment last year was 22,000 even, and this year's budget is 23. I think you might need to consider raising that assessment slightly.
Well, and I have 23,994, which would say maybe we ought to assess at 24 if they still want to keep some reserve.
That would probably be a good idea.
I think Mike was saying, I could hardly hear him, but I think Mike was saying that if we got the delinquents back, our deficit wouldn't be as bad. So if we catch up on delinquents, we might not need to raise it that much.
Well, and so that's the choice. I guess the group needs to decide what they want to do. If they want to just assess it, maybe 23 or 24 or 22. That's the pleasure of this group, I think. Anybody have any suggestions?
I just was looking, I mean, we had, off that delinquent, there was 1,600, which would actually put us very close to where we was, but maybe with the ad, we ought to just bump it 1,000 this year and put us at 23,000 as a distribution.
I think that's a good number if people can agree to that.
Go ahead, Rand, and make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Rand made the motion for 23,000. Craig, were you seconding it? Okay, so
Yeah.
I have a motion and a second to set the assessment at $23,000. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Don't even know on my list who's up for election this year. Do you have that, Todd?
Yeah, Jared, do you want me to share, or do you want to share your screen with the members of the board page?
Go ahead, Todd.
Okay. Take me just a second to get it going here. There's the groundwater page. Okay, here we are. There you go.
So it looks like Craig, Dave Bouchard, Brad Buller are the ones that would be up for election. So I guess nominations or any other motion you want to make would be open for those positions. You can also make a motion to just railroad them back in.
I make a motion that we, I'm trying to remember the wording here, suspend the rules and make them serve again.
I think that'll work, Randall. Thank you for the motion. Do I have a second for that motion?
Marlo says he'll second that.
Okay, so Marlo will second it. Motion from Randall and a second from Marlo to reappoint for a 2-year term Craig Lobb, Dave Bouchard, and Brad Buller.
Is Dave on that? What I recommended to do.
So I'll call for a vote on that motion if everybody's good with it. All those in favor, please signify.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do we need to re-select a new chair? I'm asking the state. It wasn't on the agenda, but I know one time they had us do that, so.
If you got to be there, we all got to stay. You got to stay too.
Okay, well, that's fine. Is there any other business then to come before us? I'm sure the state's got another meeting right away. If not, I guess meeting adjourned, and thank everybody for their time. Appreciate it. Thanks, Todd.
Please make sure you get to that sign-up sheet in the comments box there.
Jared, Mike.